Well, I think there's been quite a kind of concerted effort to remove even mildly kind of anti-war opposition leaders, such as which might be there. So there are 5 candidates. 4 of them people hardly heard of, and of course there's only real candidate is one, which is Vladimir Putin himself.
Indeed. What impact, talking of anti-war critics, is the ongoing war in Ukraine going to have on how people view Putin in this election?
Well, it's very hard to say because you would have this narrative in the West where you have everybody is against it or they just can't voice opposition. But in fact, I think the reality is much more nuanced. You do have vocal opposition. The Navalny's funeral showed that there were thousands of people coming and show their support for him, which was also with anti-war slogans. But I think looking at the last 10 years or so with Russia, you have vocal opposition with perhaps 10 to 15% support, but the vast majority are either apathetic or actually supportive of the authorities. So I think this will be reflected in the results as well, which are controlled anyway.
Yeah, as you say, controlled. Could opposition be expressed in a lack of turnout, perhaps?
Yes, it could be. Although, again, there's something would be very hard to read, whether people stay away because they can't be bothered or they stay away because their candidate is going to win anyway. The authorities are doing a lot of work to increase the turnout. So there's a lot of encouragement from the employers, from state companies to have the employers vote. There is a lot of extension of vote. For example, it's not done on one day, but it's done over 3 days, for example. You have a new system introduced for few people who can vote online as well. So I think there is quite a lot of room for authorities to boost participation the way they need.
Talking of boosting participation, are Ukrainians living under Russian occupation being pressured to register as Russians and vote?
Yeah, so there's been quite a lot of campaign for the last year and a half since they formally annexed those territories in Ukraine to get Russian passports, and that would kind of open a way to vote in Russian elections as well. So yeah, there is a lot of kind of similar pressure applied as across Russia proper to participate in those elections. It's very difficult to say what the actual participation is because obviously there's no kind of independent verification of the processes, so to say. So we will know in reality what actually happens there.
Yeah, but he could use it. Putin could use it as a demonstration that the people who are occupied by Russia accept it and want it.
Yes, exactly. I think that's the idea there, kind of to get legitimacy to establish this control over the political control, that they are voted for it, they participate in Russian elections, so they are part of the Russian political system. So all those things really are for the domestic consumption, to be honest. It doesn't change anything internationally, but yeah, for domestic consumption, they are part of this larger political space of Russia now, yeah.
Talking of political consumption, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Putin said Russia is ready to use nuclear weapons if its sovereignty or independence is threatened. Is that a real threat or just posturing ahead of the election?
We don't know until we find out, right? It's just a matter of,
we don't want to find out, actually, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Russia has nuclear weapons. It invested a lot of money and effort into maintaining its parity with the United States over the last years, even when it was in very difficult financial situations, which is not anymore. And it is ultimate kind of guarantee of its that it's taken seriously, essentially, in military terms. So if push comes to shove and it's the last resort, I think it's quite possible that they will use it because they have capacity, and certainly they have the mindset not to give up. So I think it should be taken seriously enough.
Yeah. Alex, this is another 6-year term for Putin coming up. As we talked about earlier, there's no effective opposition allowed. Even one of Alexei Navalny's strategists was attacked in Lithuania. How do you see this ending? How do you see Russia finding any form of democracy or any form of, I guess, people having any real say in how that country is run into the future?
Well, I think, you have to kind of look, have a long view on Russia, so it has kind of Soviet Union collapse. It had a, experiment with democracy, which was relatively pluralist under Yeltsin, although not perfect democracy by any means. And then you have this authoritarian trend, which has been increasing. I don't think it's kind of run its course. I think there's still quite, a few years left in it. It will probably survive Putin quite easily. And the other thing is it's much more complex than just top-down approach. They do a lot of sociological research. They are very responsive to people's wishes. There is this attention to what people think and want, but it's not done through a ballot box, right? That's a different thing. So they don't want to have this issue of endangering the political system as they see it through having competitive elections. But it's not to say that they don't actually look at what people want and respond it to the extent they find necessary.
Yeah, and it's quite clever, as you say. It sort of keeps that opposition or potential even protest or overthrowing of the government at bay. Going to be interesting. Appreciate chatting ahead of the election. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.